Hello. So, reflections on my day. Well, first things first is I'm a little bit late. I made sure this is the first time I've done a video the day after. So it's about yesterday. What was the essence of the Tao yesterday? The essence of the Tao yesterday was about recognizing greatness. It's about that relationship with perception is projection, and recognizing the greatness in all things. Recognizing that I am great, and therefore then you must be great, and everything around us must also be great. And sometimes it's really hard for us. We have a model of the world. The simulator runs crazy in terms of choosing how it thinks it should go. And like any bit of software, it's got a set of rules that it chooses how it's going to create the scenario that plays out, how people should behave, how we should behave, how the results should go, and so on and so forth. And of course, that doesn't pan out, because anybody that's ever actually been in a simulator, be it a flight sim or some form of business simulator, that very often the relationship with how we think it's going to pan out in our head is very different to the reality of how it pans out. And so we're left with a couple of choices then. And the one thing I notice with a lot of people that I coach, that I work with, that we'll meet in everyday life, is that they're now in a place where they either get quite upset with the fact that what they expected to occur is different to what's actually occurring. So it means that they forget to connect with the big picture, or they offer you a load of excuses, tons of excuses, and that isn't strictly their fault. Sometimes looking from the outside in, it seems fairly obvious, or they make some stuff up. Kick into a good old-fashioned bit of cognitive dissonance, where they now create new beliefs that reinforce the old beliefs. So, they must have known. If only they knew. Why could they do that? And we start to plan and summarize. You hear phrases like "it's just too much of a coincidence" and so on and so forth, as people now construct reasons for how it didn't pan out. So, for me, I like the idea, and I've always liked the idea of taking a big step back from all of that and just paying attention to not whether what occurred was what I expected to occur, but actually what actually occurred. What actually occurred? What actually did we experience? And very often, as you take a step back, you realise the enormity or the significance, or you actually see the greatness in the situation. And I just, at times when you do that, I'm overwhelmed and inspired by the greatness that's all around me, and actually the greatness that we can create. That greatness exists in nature. That greatness exists in all things, in all places. It's quite easy today, as I sit here in my garden. You can't necessarily see the view that I can see, but I'm looking out over a bit of Dartmoor, and it's stunning and it's beautiful, and the sun is shining, and it's just incredible. But there are many days when I've not even been able to sit out here. But does that make it any less great? No, it just means that I can't see the view today, and I would have liked to have done. So there's a difference between what I would have wanted and what actually occurred. But the hill hasn't got any smaller. The trees haven't really got that much taller, because it takes so much time for them to do that. So the greatness of what is occurring is still there, but sometimes we get clouded by what's going on the surface. I spent most of yesterday at sea kayaking, and there were times when it was quite flat, and there are times when it was quite lumpy. Now, I'm a big fan. I like it when it's quite lumpy, because it means you've got to work hard and use your skill set. But it's always stunningly beautiful when it's flat. But fundamentally, the depth of the sea that I paddled over doesn't fundamentally change as a result of the size of the wave on the surface. It is still the same body of water. And does the water really know whether it's in a big wave or a small wave? No, it just knows whether it's going up and down and up and down and left a bit and right a bit with the tide. So taking a step back from all things and stepping out of the detail of the situation sometimes to recognise the underpinning greatness within it. And I have been felt beautifully humble today, and I'm very cherished. And the reason why I have delayed the recording of yesterday's video is because it would have been dark by the time I'd finished my day. And one of the things yesterday, a true little moment of greatness, is I sit on this chair in my garden and recorded a few videos from here. And my stunningly amazing daughter, Charlotte, has she's watched my videos, which is quite weird, really, having we talk and we share many ideas, and she is a great foil for the ideas that I have. But she's watched the videos and she picks up on things that are just uniquely beautiful to Charlotte. And one of the things that she noticed was that there were quite a lot of weeds in the background. So yesterday, the bit of the garden that I sit in, she weeded, and she has been set herself a little mission for the summer to be able to make use of the greenhouse that we inherited when we moved into this house in the garden. So she's grown some plants, and she felt there needed to be a little bit of colour in the background. So the plants that you see in the background, she's grown them, and she's chosen to plant them there so they can bring some colour to this video. That's greatness. That's greatness in action live. That's someone doing something and just connecting, just the thought that goes behind that. Just a beautiful moment. A beautiful, beautiful moment. So I am deeply touched. And maybe our mission, and your mission for today, maybe tomorrow, maybe your mission for the whole of life is no matter how tough things get, no matter how complicated things get at different times in our life, it is a way of throwing ourselves a lifeline, is to work through and to find and to set the filter to look for greatness. Is to look for greatness, is to be able to seek it out, is to find it, is to notice it. And sometimes it is nothing ever more complicated than taking a step back and recognising that greatness is all around us. You are it. The very way that you interact, the love, the joy, the peace that you can find, the peace that you can't find, but the fact that you know it exists, it's there, no matter how brief or fleeting for a moment in some people's lives. But I'm always of the opinion, if we go looking for it, we will eventually find it. Very often it's about our resolve to keep looking for it. The other thing is that has happened very quickly. It started to happen very quickly in my garden. Just outside my garden, there is an oak tree, and when maybe even a week or so ago, it was beautiful and it was green, and it was full and it was growing, and it was just magnificent. And it still is today, but you're starting to see the first few bits of brown, and my garden is steadily starting to fill with the leaves that are falling and dying. And so I am mindful that as we explore our own greatness, as I sit here now and recognising the changes in the world around me, is that those changes also are very natural and can be very seasonal. And if I think back to some of the other lessons from the Tao, is if we're constantly trying to keep everything the same, we can't. But the tree will still be there. It is a magnificent, it's huge. It's a magnificent piece of the landscape. And whether it is bright and green, and whether there are acorns falling off it, or whether it is dark and brown, it's alive. It is still this magnificent oak tree. The greatness that it represents will always be there, even though at times the public face of how it presents itself can seem very, very different. And that's a little bit like all of us. So I'm going to encourage you today to find the greatness inside of you, to connect with it, to love it, to appreciate it, and then notice how you see the greatness in all the other people that you come into contact with. And I'm sure that I will talk to you later. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.